I understand why people are tired and frustrated, and our focus is delivering on an economic plan to get through the challenges of today and to deliver on the promise of Canada for Canadians today and tomorrow.
We don't need the Prime Minister to change. We need to change the Prime Minister. We need a common sense, conservative Prime Minister who will axe the tax to bring home lower prices, cap spending, and cut waste to balance the budget, bringing down inflation and interest rates.
The federal cabinet is huddled here in Montreal. That's where we're coming to you this evening, working to set its agenda ahead of next week's return to Parliament. So far, the feds have announced a national summit on auto thefts and a cap on international student visas. Here to break down the strategy behind those announcements and the retreat more largely is our front bench. Former senior advisor to the Liberal Ontario governments of Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne, Dan Moulton, is here. He's now a partner with Crestview Strategy. Shakir Chambers worked in Prime Minister Stephen Harper's office before becoming a policy advisor to the International Trade Minister. He's now a principal at Earnscliffe Strategies. Former interim NDP National Director Carl Bélanger is with us. He's now the president of Traction Strategies. And Marika Walsh, next to me here, is the senior political reporter with the Globe and Mail. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Good to see you. Marika, I'll start with you. You've been covering all the ins and outs here at Cabinet. Last summer, we were also both in Prince Edward Island. I remember it very clearly at the end of it. The primary critique of the government was that they didn't announce anything tangible. They certainly countered that critique this time around with the big announcement today.
Yeah, they did. And that was really one of the things they wanted to reset with this retreat, I was told, that they wanted to be seen to be acting decisively and in particular on things that address the middle class, that weren't sort of tangents that were not focused on the broad middle spectrum of Canadians. So I think still TBD on how the overall retreat goes. As we saw from the last retreat, it didn't really lead to much movement in the polls for the Liberals. Which
it did just the wrong way as they would
the wrong
view
way.
it,
You're right. It didn't go in the right way for them. It went in the right way for Pierre Poilievre. And as much as the Liberals say that's not what they're focused on, that is, of course, something they're going to be thinking about more and more and more as we get closer to an election in just over a year's time. But I would say it has been, from a comms perspective, more action-oriented in this retreat than the last one, where they belatedly acknowledged a crisis but said we'll deal with it later.
Dan, when they're sending the message today that they're willing to make changes to their immigration policy, some changes, I should say, the minister kind of ruled out larger changes on the permanent side of things. But the fact that they're saying they're willing to do something with their immigration policy, what message politically do you think they hope that sends?
Well, let's take a step back and look at the message I think they're trying to send with this entire retreat. Marika hit on a great deal of it. I think it's meant to communicate to people that pay close attention to politics, people in the media, influencers, that they recognize they have a political challenge in this moment in time that is not lost on them, and they are looking to respond to it. The announcement they made this morning is, I think, underscoring that very clearly. We heard similar comments from Minister Freeland this morning, acknowledging that Canadians are struggling in this moment in time, and that is reflected in the polls. They are acutely aware of a frustration among the public with the government right now, and I think they're quite keen to look responsive to it and look in the long term to move the polls. One announcement, one cabinet retreat is not going to impact the polling, but a consistent set of disciplined decisions over a longer period of time will. And I think they're looking to be quite clear that in 2024, as they start the year, it's going to be different for them than 2023.
Yeah, do you think that Shakir, is a message they are beginning to land with the retreat and with the announcements they've made so far? Or do you think that people at home are going to contrast that with, yes, they acknowledged my frustrations months ago, but they haven't really done anything in the immediacy that could make my life better? That will be a view reflected in public opinion polling. I'm not saying that the merits of it are entirely there, but I think those polls shows us that there's a sense that is the case.
Yeah, I think they're trying to be responsive to issues that are top of mind to Canadians, right? Like even today, I know Mark Miller came out as the immigration minister, but to me, this is very much a housing announcement, right? Mark Miller is not blind to the fact that Canadians are making a connection between high levels of immigration, or in this case, international students, and issues around housing supply and housing affordability. I think when you take this announcement and then you pair it with things that Minister Fraser has done with the millions and millions of dollars that he spends on municipalities for housing, they're trying to build a narrative going forward. So 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now, they can show their work to Canadians that we heard you on the housing affordability piece. We took action. Although we might not have results right now, we're working our way to kind of helping with rent, helping with mortgages, whatever that case may be. So I think for them, they're trying to be very responsive. The one thing I would say is we might be in a situation where people have tuned them out, right? Is their narrative going to break through? Is their communications going to break through? And are they going to get credit for an issue? If you look at charts from 2015 to now, an issue that really occurred on their watch, right? This rapid growth of international students. Are Canadians going to pat them on the back and say, well, you solved an issue that you kind of created. We're going to give you credit for that. I'm not so sure they're going to get credit for that moving forward.
Yeah, I think Shakir hits the nail on the head when it comes to what the big political question will be in the longer term, Carl. If they continue with this more disciplined, sort of action-oriented position like Dan laid out over the coming months, is it enough, to counter the idea that maybe some people have, or many people have tuned them out, but also is it enough to counter the positioning from primarily the Conservatives, which has been, and you heard it in that clip, that the government is incompetent?
No, it's not enough. What we've got here is a government that's been, for months now, playing defense. And today's announcement is, again, backtracking, retreating, climbing down from previous position, a little bit like they did on the carbon tax a few months ago. And it's been like that ever since Pierre Poilievre became a leader of the Conservative Party. They need to get back on the offense. They need to show some initiative. And it cannot be about, well, we have a problem that we created, as Shakir just said, and we're going to fix it by changing our policy and changing our tune. It doesn't work like that because, first of all, the solution would not be implemented fast enough to show any kind of to have any kind of impact on the electorate, and the end results will take years for that to have any kind of consequences on the ground. So politically, they need to. It's fine to play defense here and there, but they also need to go on